Let's talk about squatters. Hi, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick, and I'm wearing a 117 for children's hat. No, it's not because I play golf. No, it's not because this event is coming up. It's simply a reminder that Buffalo is amazing. Josh Allen is our quarterback, and Josh Allen supports the Oshai Children's Hospital. Oshai Children's Hospital, which is one of the premier children's hospitals in the Northeast region, I would argue, and it is the premier children's hospital in at least New York. I'll stand up to anybody who wants to fight me about that. I will fight them, and I will hold up the results that Children's Hospital brings to families and the work that they're able to do and the work that the Buffalo Bills do with them. Proud that I know people who have worked with Oshai Children's Hospital, and really, really proud that I am tangentially able to say that I support them, even though I cannot nearly afford to support them. They do amazing work. And now that you've had that 1 minute not advertisement for Oshai Children's Hospital in Buffalo, New York, let's talk about squatters. I went down a doom scrolling rabbit hole last night. It was a problem. I doom scrolled on videos about squatters. Number one, it did not help me sleep. I did not sleep well. Number two, though, it made me think. First, damn, have somebody just break into your house while you're out of town? That sucks. And then you realize how many houses are actually just sitting vacant because somebody passed away or somebody owns multiple properties or what have you. First things first. You know me. I am a lawyer. I am a man of the law. I am an officer of the court in New York State, even though I no longer really go to court. That would not be... I could not ethically allow myself to do that since I have not researched nearly enough case law in the last few years. I could spend some time and get up to date, but I'd have to pay for a Westlaw membership, and I can't afford one. It's like $1,000 a year. And I spend that money on other things now. But let's talk about the deeper issue here. And the deeper issue here isn't necessarily that, why do these people have all these vacant homes? No. And it's not and the issue isn't like, oh, these laws are so squatter friendly. No. The issue is we have so many people who are so desperate to have housing that they feel they have no choice but to knowingly commit a crime. And they do knowingly commit a crime. Let's talk about that. What's going on there? Well, let's start with the first thing. Squatters' rights laws were put into place. Actually, squatters' rights laws are technically called adverse possession. Adverse possession is possession that is hostile to the proper owner, meaning that there is no there's no formal lease, there's no connection, no permission was given. It is hostile to the interests of the owner. So adverse possession laws usually contain specific ways that a squatter must go about maintaining possession of a property. They must do it openly and notoriously. They must do it for a set amount of time. And the owner, essentially must not reassert their right to the property. If it's a 30-day window and the owner comes in on day 29 and says, "The hell are you doing on my property?" adverse possession no longer applies because the owner has come in, seen it, and told them to get out. The owner has specifically said to them, "You do not possess this property." Right? That defeats an adverse possession claim. But adverse possession claims were put in place basically to recognize at least in my estimation, they were put in place to recognize kind of the humanity of an individual. Humans aren't dogs. Like if a dog is on your property illegally, you can anytime just remove the dog. The dog does not get a right to property. But a human beings get desperate and they need shelter. So what is this desperate situation that human beings are now in? Well, in certain states, we have homeless populations that match some of the housed populations. In the city of Los Angeles, you've got a lot of homeless people who are desperate. Now a lot of homeless people don't go breaking into people's houses, right? They typically choose to live on the streets. In the town I lived in growing up, we had one homeless guy. I know. I lived in a great neighborhood growing up. I'm saying we had a homeless guy. And his family was not poor by any means. They tried to get him help multiple times. It just wasn't in the cards for him. I don't know whether he liked that life. He lived that life. He was harmless. He was fine. Just something off. Unfortunately, he died in a snowstorm. In what we call in Buffalo, we call code blue, meaning that there are buildings that are designated as emergency shelters in winter storms to keep homeless populations from dying. It was a code blue and he couldn't stay inside long enough. It made him, I don't know, it made him itchy, it made him nervous, he couldn't do it. He wandered out into the storm and unfortunately he passed away. That's tragedy in and of itself. And so we end up with these squatters' rights videos where you've got these like squads of people, these vigilantes almost. And they're not vigilantes, right? So the owner signs over power of attorney to this group, and that gives them the right to essentially act as the owner in the stead of the owner in asserting ownership of the property. They can't do anything, once essentially an adverse possession claim has actually successfully came. They can't do anything if an eviction process has been started, because an eviction is a recognition that there was at some point a right to be on the property. Eviction takes a while. Now, granted, you see the videos of these houses where people have squatted, and the squatter typically does not take care of the house. And because most laws in most places protect, the rights of human beings to be treated like human beings, the owners aren't allowed to turn off the utilities. They're not allowed to change the locks. They're not allowed to do anything to encourage the people inside to leave. And that's, for the owners, especially for a lot of owners who, maybe they have multiple properties and they do rent multiple properties and they're trying to they're trying to be a good landlord, but they're one person trying to maintain multiple properties. It's tough. So what's the problem with this situation? How do we solve it? Well, one thing is housing prices have to come way down. Because half the problem right now is that even pretty well-off people can't afford houses in the areas they're trying to live. And granted, right? If you don't have a home in Los Angeles, but you could afford a home in like Iowa, you may not like Iowa, but you could afford a home there. You wouldn't be struggling for housing in Iowa, and that might be the move. It's not a dumb idea. And I'm speaking from a place of relative privilege, right? Like I have a nice apartment, and when I first moved out here, I got extremely lucky, and I had an apartment. It was fine. It got the job done. My stove tilted down, which was pretty funny. But it didn't leak. It had, had a nice shower, had a bathroom. It was good stuff. Yeah, you watch these videos though, and you think to yourself, what do we do? We're really pitting not just landlords against tenants, because this comes down to landlord-tenant law, but we're really pitting desperate populations against populations that are getting, in landlords, increasingly more desperate. Groups of desperate people are never a good thing. Now, granted, a lot of this is TikTok inflation, what you're going to call TikTok social media inflation, where it's sensationalized to really drive up the views and get clicks and get everybody looking and get everybody hyped up and get everybody excited. It works. But assume that even just 10% of what they're saying is true, it's a big issue. So how do we solve it? Well, the first way to solve it is definitely not to simply demonize people who break into homes. There's a reason squatters' right laws exist. They're human beings. Number 2, don't break into people's homes. That is a crime. Don't do it. And if you don't own the property, I'm sorry, you're out of luck. But there should be more resources to help you. There should be more resources to help you so you don't have to resort to breaking into people's homes. I don't have the answer. This is a 10-minute podcast. I watched a video from John Stossel on it, and honestly, you'd think that landlords were getting screwed out the ass. Corporate landlords really aren't. It's the individual landlords. It's the guys and gals who are taking over a property from a parent, who are trying to maintain both their home and another home, who are buying another home and moving out of a place and they left a place vacant. So what's the solution? Well, common sense solution would say you actually have to engage with the homeless population and the homeless crisis and solve that. But God knows our leadership hasn't made any efforts to do that. That's all I got for you today. Glad I could uplift your Wednesday morning. I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. Hope you have a great day.